Head to Whole Foods Market to jumpstart your January during our New Year boosting event with savings on feel-good favorites store-wide. Save on organic picks, wellness staples, and more all month long.
Hello and welcome to Women's Running Stories, where exceptional women runners share inspirational stories about their running experiences. I am Cherie Louise Turner. I am the host and producer of this podcast. Thank you so much for being here. This episode features a truly exceptional runner and racer, Weini Kelati. Weini is a professional runner for the Mission Run Dark Sky Distance team sponsored by Under Armour, and she is one of the top road and long-distance track racers in the U.S. today. And this episode is all about how Weini has gotten to where she is today, with a special focus on the transformation her running and racing has gone through over the past year. It's a really incredible story. So a bit of background about Weini Kelati. She is originally from Eritrea on the northeastern coast of Africa, and she grew up with her mother and two brothers. Her father died when she was young. She is, as she often mentions, a family person, and she is especially close with her mom. From a young age, Weini showed a talent for running fast, but that was only discovered because she had to run in order to get a good grade in school. But regardless of what was motivating her to run, Weini still wanted to win. Even in circumstances when she had to wake up in the middle of the night to walk for hours to get to the start line, her goal was to beat her competitors. And she did. Weini was fast and she was determined. She was soon competing against runners who were much more experienced than she was, and she was chosen to race at increasingly more competitive events. And this would eventually lead to Weini starting a new life in the United States and becoming a professional runner. Throughout, Weini Kelati has had big goals. But over the years, she did begin to recognize a few things that were holding her back in running, specifically in two areas. One was confidence. Sometimes she had it, but other times she didn't. And Weini also realized something else that was weighing on her. There were emotional barriers that were taking their toll. The other area of Weini's racing that she needed to address was learning how to race the types of races that did not play to her strengths. Weini Kelati can throw down a hard, fast, consistent pace from the gun to the finish line. She likes a race that goes out really hard and stays that way. Where she's had trouble is with races that were more tactical, that go out a bit slower and then finish really, really fast. These are often referred to as sit-and-kick races. Runners bide their time running a slower pace during the beginning part of the race, and then the real racing starts closer to the finish with a big, fast kick. The first issue Weini had to address was that she actually didn't have the raw speed that was needed to be among the best in those sit-and-kick type of races. Add to that, she didn't like these types of races. They felt uncomfortable and they made her impatient. And all of this played on her confidence. However, that tactical type of racing is what often happens at championship events. Events like the Olympic trials, national championships, and the Olympics. So Weini Kelati had work to do because she did have those very, very big goals. And last year she had the extra incentive because 2024 was an Olympic year, and to make the team, she would have to finish top 3 at the Olympic trials. And she knew she had to be able to arrive at the line confident to race whatever type of race unfolded. Making the Olympic team would also call on facing that emotional barrier that had been holding Weini back. The 2024 Olympic trials were scheduled to take place at Hayward Field in Eugene, Oregon. This is where a lot of big meets take place, and they have for a long, long time. So much so that Eugene, Oregon, and Hayward Field is known as Tracktown, USA. This is also a place that holds very powerful memories for Weini Kelati, memories that stirred up a lot of emotions, and those were the emotions that were having an impact on Weini's ability to perform at her best. So to fully understand how much of a transformation Weini's running career went through last year, we need to first go back a bit. Back to when Weini first raced at Hayward Field, because that was also the first day that she started her life in the United States. She was 17 years old, and she had come to Hayward Field to race the 2014 Junior World Championships as part of the Eritrean team. What only Weini Kelati knew when she said goodbye to her mother and two brothers in Eritrea and boarded the plane for the United States to run at this Junior World Championships was that she wasn't planning to come back. She had decided, all by herself, without telling anyone, that she was going to stay in the U.S. and seek asylum. She didn't know anybody here, she didn't know American culture, and she did not speak the language. And on that July day at Hayward Field, Weini followed through with her plan, leaving behind everything she knew and a family that she loved to set out into this whole new world, all on her own. So that's where we're going to begin. Let's get to it. Here to tell her story, beginning with that decision to remain in the United States, is Weini Kelati.
I was just looking to help my family and change my life and get the opportunity of getting going to school and continue running, but I had no idea. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna stay here and make my decision, and I thought I was like very old enough to make decisions and do all the things by myself. Here, you have to be 18 at least to make a decision by yourself. But back home, you have to learn the way of living since you're born. If you're a girl, you have to help your family. You have to help your mom, and just like see what she's doing and learn from that. If you're a boy, then you have to follow your dad's footsteps. So for me, since I was 7, I can do things by myself. That's this is like how different the culture is. It's really interesting, but I respect both of it because it's really cool to experience it. So I felt like I was old enough, and I thought I know everything, but which I did not know. And that's how I came up with my decision. And well, I did not know anyone else in here when I make my decision to stay. I thought I was just gonna stay and I can go with anyone else, because in back home, even if you find a stranger, you can ask for a ride and they'll get you to your destination safely, no problem. I was thinking the same way when I made my decision to change my life and help my family. I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna ask people to stay with them, and I did not know what's gonna happen. So, but when I get here, I was like, oh no, that's not how it works, I guess. And I find these people. I have talked about them before. They came to watch the race because they've heard there was an Eritrean runners are coming to World Championship, and they were holding an Eritrean flag sitting at the Hayward Field to watch us race. And I saw them. I ran into them, and I was like, oh. I had a little conversation, and I was like, oh, I wanted to stay here. Can I go with you? It sounds really crazy, but they were so nice, and they said, oh, if that's your decision, we're gonna help you. We just wanted you to be safe. Here is different. You're 17, and then also you cannot go with anyone like you do back home. And I was like, oh, okay, I can go with you then. Then I went with them, and later I figured out there's my cousins in here, so I bought a phone and contacted them, and they were in shock. They was like, oh my God, okay, do you know these people? I said, no. We just found them on the race. And they said, oh, okay, we're going to find someone who we know that we wanted to be sure you're safe. And yeah, they found someone for me in Portland, and these people, after 2-3 days, I think it was like maybe the second day, they drove me to this person that my cousin knows, and I stayed the week with him and his family. And my cousin from Virginia contacted me, and he was like, oh, okay, I've heard that you wanted to stay here. Do you want to come? I wanted to get you an air ticket. And I said yes. That was like a really happy moment that they heard from my cousin. And yeah. For sure, one thing that I really prepared for was I didn't expect it to be easy. I know it's a new transition. I had to prepare myself. This is going to be hard without my family. I've never spent a day, one night, being away from my family. But I knew it's going to be hard. I have to be ready. I have to be strong for them to change my life and help them. But half of it was like it's something that I have prepared for myself for. Some of it was not. So the paper, which is the asking asylum, was the hardest part for me because it took so long to get my papers, and I was stressing every day about it. And at the same time, I had to go school, work, and train. The going to work, school, and running wasn't hard for me, but thinking about the papers was really stressful for me. It's just really, really hard, not knowing what's gonna happen and how you don't know when you're gonna get it. And thankfully for the people who support me to do all these things. I didn't do it all by myself. I had people who has my back, starting with my high school teammate, their family, the whole Leesburg, Virginia family. I love them. Leesburg is the place that I really love because those are the people who helped me to shape my life. I won't be the person who I am today without them. And my teachers in high school, my classmate, and everyone they helped me to get used to this new life and learn a new culture and a new language at the same time. From that, I just keep finding my way that how I'm going to continue to the next chapter of my life. Finishing high school, then I got recruited by college, and I was like, wow, I did not know I can do this all by myself. As I said, I had help from people, but it's just not having my family. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I felt so proud of myself when I stand in my high school graduation. I was like, oh my God, I can do it. I'm here standing with the kids that have the whole family with them, they're living with their family. But I felt great about myself. I said, I'm going to continue to chase my dream.
And Weini Kelati clearly had big dreams, and she had the strength and the fortitude to go after them. She'd made that incredibly difficult decision to leave her family and her home, and she'd built a life in the U.S. with the support of family and friends. And throughout, she was running and racing well. In high school, she won the prestigious Foot Locker cross-country championships just over a year after she'd first arrived in the U.S., and she'd gotten recruited to race at the top collegiate level, NCAA Division I. She became a 2-time NCAA national champion, once in cross-country and on the track in the 10,000-meter event. And after college, Weini turned pro. And coming into 2024, she'd built an impressive resume as a professional. She'd won 3 national titles on the road, won in the 10K, and she'd won the 5K road championships twice, setting a course record each time, among other incredible performances. But along with all of these successes, Weini has had some disappointing performances, times when she didn't reach her goals.
It's just overall sometimes like when your goals are high and then you feel short of the race, you feel like you let down the people who support you, and of course, not having my family here is always difficult, and I was trying to process it, but I said I keep telling myself that's an excuse that I'm making for myself to just like not doing what I wanted to do. So I need to put that back in, work on just focus on running and racing. As I said, it's hard when your goals are high and you don't do what you were capable to do. I was just like had this like so many stress that in my mind that nobody knows, and I never shared with anyone. I was like, oh my god, like am I doing well? Am I good enough for this sport? And why do I feel like I'm not good at it every time when I feel like I came up short of my goals.
In time, Weini went from questioning her abilities to finding more constructive ways of dealing with disappointment.
And sometimes it doesn't go the way how like I prepared, and that's okay. It's the way of learning. Every time when you trying to do something, it doesn't go your way. That doesn't mean that you lose or you're not good at it. It's just like the way of learning. It's what it takes to be successful, and that's that's a new way of like running, I would say, that I'm getting used to in the professional world, but I'm very happy that the way how it's going right now.
So heading in to 2024, Weini was doing less questioning of her abilities, and instead she focused on learning. And her training was going well. She started the year by first tackling a new challenge that played to her strengths. She was running her first half marathon at the prestigious Houston Half Marathon, which takes place every January and is known for being a really fast course. The year before, 2023, professional runner Kira D'Amato had set the American half marathon record, running 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 39 seconds. For Weini, this race was, on one hand, a terrific setup. She knew she could run hard and fast from the start, just like she liked to. She could go for it from the gun to the finish. On the other hand, this was a totally new distance for Weini. So she was running into the unknown.
Well, I had no idea. I was just like getting ready for the half marathon, and I'm a very low mileage. I wasn't sure if I was ready for it, but at the same time I was like, oh, I can do it. I feel pretty good about the road racing. Let's go and just do it. But I did not plan to get the record though. I was just like, I'm gonna run as hard as I could, and that's it. So I was just more thinking about my PR and, well, like I've never run it, but a good time, and then getting the record. But halfway, I think it was in 5K, and I gotta check my watch, and I was like on the record, and I was like, wow, it feels really good, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep up this way because at some point it's gonna feel hard because I've never done it. Yeah, I felt pretty good, and my fiance was like pacing me at the time, and he goes like, oh, we are going like 5 minutes 5:03 pace. It was like the wind was like it was a tailwind, and I said, wow, that's pretty fast, but I feel pretty good, let's keep going. He was like, are you okay? Well, we're going under the record. And I said, that's fine. And when I kept going, it felt pretty good, and I was like, okay, that's good. But when I made it to 16K and I was like, oh, now I felt the race. And it was pretty windy. And I was like, oh, it's not going to happen. I'm not getting the record. I'm just going to finish it strong. That's it. And at the finish line, I got the record. It was a surprise for me. It's crazy. As I said, I wasn't prepared for it, but when my coach told me that, oh, you can run 68 for the half marathon or 67, I said, I wanted to run 66. I didn't even know that was the record. I know I watch half marathons, but I did not know what was the specific time. So I was like, oh, I wanted to run a little bit faster than that. I feel like a little bit fit. I just did, well, my longest long run was like 18 miles. So I just did a couple 18 miles long run last year, and I was like, oh yeah, I've done 18 miles. That's about 28 something K. So I feel pretty good about the half marathon. I'm just gonna run and see how fast I can run. And when he said 68, I said, no, I wanted to do better than that. But going there to just get the record, it was just like such a blessing, you know?
In her very first half marathon ever, Weini Kelati had set a new American record. She had run 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 25 seconds, taking 14 seconds off Kira D'Amato's record set the year before. No doubt, Weini Kelati's training was going great. But coming up at the end of June was the Olympic trials, where Weini would be going after a spot on the Olympic team in the 10,000 meter event. And for that, she knew she had more work to do.
I thought I was ready for bigger races, but every time I came short, and the goals were high no matter what. And that's what makes me feel like, well, I still have something to do. Either it's my training or the mentality that I have to come up during the race. And I figured out that every time when I go to championship races or some bigger races, I thought I was enough confident to just step up and show the work that I have been doing, but somehow I fell short. But every time I don't feel like, it will take me a few days to process it, but I let it go and I look for opportunity and start a new chapter again. And last year, the most thing that I worked was mentally to be prepared on how the championship race is going to play out, because I know it's going to be a tactical race, and then I have to have that kick at the end to be able to make the team and win the race. And every time I go to practice, I have to work for it, and as well as be prepared mentally for wherever it happens. I said, this is what holding me back. I need to step up in the race and not to think about what can go wrong and focus what can go right.
Weini was addressing the issues that were holding her back in championship races, focusing on what could go right. In preparation for the Olympic trials, which would be taking place in late June, Weini lined up in March for the 10,000 meter event at the track meet called The 10, put on by Sound Racing. And there, Weini let it rip. She ran 30 minutes and 33 seconds, which was under the Olympic standard of 30 minutes and 40 seconds. This is a huge hurdle to overcome. Athletes need to meet a time standard in order to race at the Olympics. There are other ways to qualify to compete at the Olympics, but meeting that time standard just removes any questions. Now, if Weini placed in the top 3 at the U.S. Olympic trials, she was undoubtedly going to be able to go to Paris. Also, meeting the Olympic standard, it's just a big confidence boost. In addition, Weini was also being boosted by that half marathon performance. The half marathon is 13.1 miles, and that's 21.1 kilometers, over twice as long as a 10K. And this gave Weini a whole new perspective on racing the 10K.
If felt like, wow, I did a double 10K on the road race, and I feel pretty good. And the 10K is just gonna be like a 31 minutes run. That's how I feel when I do the sun running 10K and get the standard. And racing the year championship, the Olympic trial, felt like, okay, I have done the half marathon, let's do the 10K. It's just 25 laps, it makes it easier to think about instead of saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna run 25 laps on the track.
With her new perspective, the 10K didn't feel like quite as long of a grind as it had before she'd run the half marathon. Now she just had to make sure she was ready for whatever type of race was going to happen at the trials, and she was anticipating that things probably wouldn't go the way that she'd prefer.
When there is a pacer and the race goes out from the beginning, it plays out my favorite. But when the race goes slow, it's always hard because every time, since I started running, since I was a kid, I didn't think I ran any short distance race. There was a couple 1500 that I did when I was in middle school, and then I went up to 5K, 10K. So I never learned how to turn up the legs at the end of the race. It's just like I like to go out hard and finish it that way. I like it when it's like more constant race than going slow and then you have to kick hard. But what I did was I have to do the stuff that can help me to improve my speed to get ready for the championship race. I said, forget what I have done. Now the race is gonna be slow as always. I have to get ready, and I know I was I have worked on my speed and I feel confident about it. Going there, I was just okay, just let's do what I have done in training. I was just let's be free during the race as I do my practice and other small races. I know that it's so hard that knowing it's only limited for 3 people to make the team, and it's just a little bit stressful when the race doesn't go your way. But that's something that I had to prepare myself. I said, I can do it. I am in a better shape than what I was before, so I can make the team. I can even win the race. And the most important thing that I tell myself was to stay patient however the race goes. And because sometimes when the race goes differently, you just get frustrated and then you lose control, and you lose the race at the same time. But last year I said, I have done the half marathon, I have done the 10K, pacing out myself to get the standard. Why can't I win the race?
And that is exactly what Weini Kelati did. She arrived at the U.S. Olympic Trials 10K being held at Hayward Field, fit, fast, and ready. It was almost 10 years to the day that Weini Kelati had decided to start her new life in the U.S. at this very venue. And now she was lining up for the biggest race of her life. She was ready for the memories and the emotions that she knew would come back being in that space, those difficult reminders of everything and everyone that she'd left behind to get to this moment. And yes, it was difficult. But she had learned how to handle those emotions, and she knew she'd be able to focus and give her all. She was also coming to the line with the confidence that not only could she make the team, but she had a shot at winning the race. She was the only woman racing the 10K who'd met the Olympic standard, and Weini had also worked on getting comfortable with those tactical sit and kick races. She'd learned how to have patience in the early uncomfortable parts of the race that were slower than she'd like, and she'd been working on her raw speed, and she had a kick. Weini brought all of that to the line at the Olympic trials, and when the race played out like she thought it might, tactical with the big moves coming at the end, Weini was able to deliver a final kick in a hard-fought finish all the way to the line. She did it. Weini Kelati won the Olympic trials, And without question, she was on her way to the Paris Olympics. And now she had a whole new set of goals to face. She'd be lining up on the biggest sports stage against the best racers in the world, all of whom would be showing up in top form. She would be too, physically, of course, and also mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
Every time during the training, I would imagine the race, especially the championship races, and when I felt tired during my training or it feels hard, I would say, this is how I felt during the race. I need to do good during my practice to handle well. To perform well in the race. But I think overall, you have to talk to yourself to figure out what's going on. And also, I do a lot of prayers. Well, that helped me a lot because I felt so connected to God, and I feel like I know that every time I pray that He's gonna answer my prayers. And prayers are something that helped me since I was very young. So my family and I are Orthodox, and growing up in Eritrea, I used to go to the church and worship. So, but when I moved here, because we don't have church, I didn't get to go. But I know God is everywhere. When I pray, He's gonna answer my prayers, and I gotta trust His time. And every time I deal with something, I just feel like more connected to God, and even though I feel like I don't have anyone to share my problems or the things that I don't want to share, I feel like God are seeing this problem is He's gonna answer wherever I ask for. So, but this was from back home, not something that has started here, and it does makes me feel close to my family. I mean, it's just it's crazy because I have been away from my family for so long. People might think, oh, she can do this, but it's really hard because I'm a family person, and I choose family overall. So it's really hard mentally and physically. Sometimes you have this nights you can't sleep, just worried about your family or thinking about them, or you miss them. It hurts you running career, but I know that they're praying for me. Every Sunday, I just talk to my mom and ask her to pray for me when she goes to church. And every time when I talk to mom, she just tells me that she's gonna pray for me, and she loves me too, and I love them so much, and yeah, that helps a lot.
With the unwavering love and support of her family, who'd be cheering her on from Eritrea, and in peak physical fitness, Weini Kelati arrived in Paris. It was time to line up for the 2024 Olympic Games.
Why? So I get the standard, I make the team, I am here. Now I have to face the best of the best, so I have to do good in this race. And also at the Olympics, it feels like a blessing. The film was great, I would say, because you feel nervous. Oh my God, I'm doing the biggest race of my life. During the warm up, I was like, I can't believe I'm racing against the people who have the world record and have been running almost a minute and a half faster than me. But I usually tell myself anything can happen during the race. Some people have a good day, some people might not. So just go there and do my best. But once you get to the track and start racing, you don't realize you don't think about all those things. My job is to hang on as much as I could and then try my best. And I was preparing myself. The race is gonna play either hard or tactically. I was expecting it to go out hard, but it wasn't that way. But I said I'm not gonna let it to bother me in the middle of my race. I'm just gonna stay patient and try my best. That was it. I know the race was like a lot of pushing at each other, tackling each other, trying to find my spot, but like it was kind of hard. But I was like, okay, this is like I don't expect it to be always a smooth race. I have to get used to these things, and I keep hanging on, like hanging on, and I find myself. I was like, how did I get? So I tried to find the spot, but I keep like I think when they pushed me around, I can't handle it. I was like, whether I was a little bit light or I didn't get used to this kind of race. I was just like giving away my spot, but I keep getting back to I can get it back myself. And I was like, okay, I know the race is gonna start somewhere at like within 3-4 laps to go. And I keep telling myself I have to stay patient, and when they start taking off, I have to find myself to find a good spot and fight for the finish. And I I don't remember how they started, and I just like find myself I was getting separated, but I get back and I don't have a strong kick as much as the runners that they were running with me, but I was like, okay, let's fight until like the finish line.
Weini fought all the way to the finish line and came in an incredible 8th place at the Paris Games. She'd given it everything she had, and she had come away satisfied. Weini has big goals, and she's also a well-grounded realist. Winning for her isn't always about coming in first. Sometimes it's about knowing she gave her all and doing better than she had in the past.
Losing the race doesn't disappoint me. What disappoints me is when I don't do my job at the race, like if I feel like I have done everything I could during the race and I don't do well, that's okay with me. It doesn't bother me. But I don't like to live with the if questions. If I have done this, it would have been better. If I've done like did this, I would have done this. So I don't like to finish with that kind of mental trick that hurts after the race. So I wanted to do everything I could during the race and I felt good about it.
Weini had no ifs about the Olympics. She felt good about her performance, as well she should. And then she had a break from training and racing, a time to absorb the enormity of everything she'd achieved, the goals she'd met, the barriers she'd broken through. It was time to rest and recover after Paris. And for Weini, it was time to reconnect with family. Finally. Weini had been able to see her mother a few years before in Uganda, but she hadn't been to Eritrea since 2014, when she'd boarded that plane for the U.S. at 17 years of age.
That was my first time. It's just like seeing the family after 10 plus years. Well, I've seen my mom before after 9 years in Uganda. And I'm a family person and it's been really, really hard for me. But I just like seeing my mom was like, we were both couldn't believe it. And after that, I felt so much better. As I said, I can sleep better. And even though I miss my family. I mean, I'm lucky. I have my grandparents from both sides. And I feel like, oh wow, I've seen my mom. I feel so much better, but I wish if I can see the entire family. But doing that this year feels incredible. Just like to make it happen this year after the Olympics, it feels like what a blessing. This is great, It's gonna change so much in my running, and just to see my grandparents, my siblings and cousins, and all the little kids that I left, and they're growing right now. They're all of them are taller than me, and I had a great time. And I feel like, and it feels different. It feels amazing. I just like after seeing my family. I mean, I can't describe it everything how it feels. It just felt great, and I know that's gonna help me in my running career. That now I feel like I would say a relief, more freedom in my mental state, and I felt great. So I'm so excited to see what can I do in 2025.
What can I do in 2025? Weini started to answer that question on January 19th of this year at the Houston Half Marathon. She was back, ready to throw down once again, and she was coming in with that something extra after being able to reconnect with her family.
Well, as I said, when I feel like after seeing my family, I feel relief, and I'm like, I feel like very good about myself during the practice, and every practice that I do was like really good, and getting ready for the half marathon was just like just complete a happy hard training day with smiles and just get ready and knowing that I have done it and having an idea that what's gonna look like, and how it's gonna feel during the race. I just feel like more ready, and just I feel like I was just getting ready for another race. It doesn't feel it's like I had no pressure. It doesn't feel that it's gonna that hard, just knowing that I have done it before. And the goal was just to run fast. I was hoping to run for a lot. I mean, like a lot faster than last year. Um, I was hoping to run like under 66 minutes, just like based it on my training. But sometimes you just like you gotta accept wherever the race goes, because the weather was like a little bit tough, cold, windy day, and when I see it, I was like, oh wow, I know I'm fit, but this is gonna be hard to perform that fast. At the same time, I wasn't bothered by it. I said I'm just gonna go out hard and do whatever I can do, because I know I trusted my training and I'm ready for it. But during my warm up, I noticed something. I was talking to my friends. I said, "Oh, like I don't feel good." They said, "That's okay. You ready? Just like relax." And I was like, "Yeah. Hopefully this will go away." And so like when we start, the first 2K was like really windy, and I check my watch how the pace is going at 5K. It felt it felt good, but not comfortable. I said my legs are pretty good, but my stomach doesn't feel great. So when we get that 10K, I think it hits me really bad. And I was like, wow. I know, like, I feel pretty strong, but at the same time, I was struggling. I said, I'm just gonna hang on wherever it happens. And I kept going. As I said, it wasn't feeling great. And then was in a mile and a half to go. Just like before I get separated, it happens again. And then every time when I do that, when I feel sick, I find myself separated from the field. And that girl, she was racing with me, the Ethiopian woman, she heard me. Like when I did this, I was trying kind of like to throw up, and she took off like really. I mean, she dropped me, and I said, "Oh no! I know she was gonna do this. I know I'm struggling, but I said that's okay. Like I came here, I do wherever I wanna. Like I run hard and stay focused. I didn't let it to bother me much, even though it was hard." And I tried to close the gap afterwards, but it doesn't work for me. It was like 4 seconds. She was ahead of me, and it's hard when someone drop off you. Like when you get dropped by someone, at the end of the race, because you're already tired, and then also you have something going on, it's a little bit hard. But to get the American record again was good. I was just not satisfied about the time, but that's okay, because in a better condition, and when I feel good, I know I can perform better. I'm in a better shape than what I ran in Houston.
Yes, I think there is no question that Weini is faster than she was able to show at Houston. And yet, Weini Kelati reset her own American record, running 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 9 seconds, shaving 16 seconds off the time she'd set the year before, and coming in second woman to Ethiopian Senayet Getachew, who did win by 4 seconds. This despite cold, windy weather and gut-wrenching stomach issues. There is absolutely no doubt Weini Kelati has entered a new level in her racing career, and it is going to be really exciting to continue to see where she goes from here. That does bring us to the end of Weini Kelati's running story on the podcast. Thank you so much, Weini, for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. I am really grateful, and I wish Weini Kelati terrific success going forward, and huge congratulations on everything she has achieved so far. She is such an incredible runner to follow. So I know that you, like me, will want to continue to follow Weini's story, and I will provide links in the show notes to how you can do that. Thank you so much for being here. I always appreciate you coming and listening to these stories, and I also appreciate you sharing this podcast with someone else you know will enjoy these stories too. Word of mouth is how this show grows, so thank you. That's going to do it for me for this episode. I am Cherie Louise Turner. I'm the host and producer of Women's Running Stories. And until next Tuesday, I do wish you healthy, joyful, confident strides forward. Women's Running. Women's Running Stories.
Welcome to Easy Conversations, a podcast about covering the incredible human ability to overcoming adversity. I am Furkan Dania. I'm a therapist and mental health advocate. Each week, my objective is to sit down with a guest and share their story of how they were able to find meaning and purpose through their adversity. These are conversations that we have deemed to be difficult, but they don't have to. Together, we can find a shared understanding. This is a podcast for everyone.